Hello guys, and welcome to this tutorial video on how to play Call of War 1942, I believe it is called. So today we'll be playing as Germany to show you this. In the 22-player Clash of Nations map, this is the default map. It's the one that they give you at the start, so I thought this would be the best one to conduct a tutorial on. I would like this to also mutate into a series later on, so comment below if you would like that to happen. And if there is enough people who want that, that will happen, obviously. So basically how the game works is you have to build up your provinces, you build up your economy, and then you use your resources at the top to build units, and then you use those units to take over enemy territories and capture their cities. And how you win the game is determined by the amount of points you have. So if we go onto the newspaper, as you see for this map, you have to have 626 points as a single nation to win. And how you gain points is by capturing cities. In this map, all the playable nations start off with 5 cities, so 50 points, and every city is worth 10 points. So you have to capture, if you do the maths, that's 62 cities, and well, basically 63 because it's 626. There are also coalitions. There's this coalition. I'm not sure if I want to join that though. And coalitions. As a coalition, you can win if your members have, like, I'm not sure, but it might be up to double the amount that a single player needs. And I think there can be up to 3 players in a coalition. So coalitions are quite important. I'm often in a coalition when I'm playing this game. So first, I would like to show you this useful document. So there are 4, what are they called? Come on, doctrines. The Axis doctrine, which is basically Germany and its allies. The Allied doctrine, which is the Western powers, Britain, its colonies mostly, I think, USA, etc. The Comintern are the communists, so Soviet Union and its allies, really, it's mostly. And then the Pan-Asian doctrine, which is Japan and some of its allies, but mostly really Japan. And they're all good at different things. But as Germany, I think I'll only talk about the Axis doctrine. And actually, I think I'll talk about all of them, but we'll focus on the Axis. So the Axis are like, they have elite units. Their hit points, they have plus 15 hit points, so they're bulky, and they deal plus 15 more damage. But that comes at a cost, and they cost, no pun intended, 10% more. So basically, you're going to have less units, but they are going to be more powerful. The Allied doctrine is all about producing stuff quickly, researching stuff quickly, as you can see by this. The only problem is their movement speed is quite low. So the Allies, it's like sort of in the middle between, I would say, the Comintern and the Axis. They're kind of polar opposites, and the Allies somewhere in the middle. So with the Allies, if you're attacked, then you can build loads of units really quickly, which is great. Comintern is all about pretty trash units, but they cost less, basically. So the downside is minus 10% damage, which isn't great. I mean, the HP is the same as it would be by default, but the production cost is decreased by 15%, and the upkeep cost is decreased by a whopping 25%. It costs much less to sustain armies. So as the Comintern, you'll have loads of bad units. Well, not necessarily bad, but worse units, in opposition to the Axis, who have a smaller amount of very good units. Pan-Asian doctrine, from popular opinion on YouTube, I think this might be the most popular doctrine. It's more of like a strategic kind of playing chess sort of doctrine. You're much quicker, plus 20% movement speed, and terrain bonuses, which will also, I think, might increase your movement speed. And you have more view range, so you can see the enemy before they see you. So using this, you can lure them into a territory, or into a terrain which is favorable for you, but not favorable for them, and then you can destroy them. But that does come at a cost. They are kind of glass cannons with minus 10 hit points. So look at the Axis doctrine, because as Germany, we are obviously the Axis doctrine. So we get some nice buffs in motorized infantry, plus 15% movement speed, so they're going to be quick. We get them earlier, and they're powerful against infantry, sorry. Other buffs in the infantry aren't we don't get that many. Ordnance, the only real buff we get is an anti-air, but using it against tanks isn't a good idea, I would say. And the buff to aeroplane damage is nice though. In tanks, we are really going to have to rely on the medium tank. That is going to be our spearhead. Gets plus 10 hit points. All of this, by the way, is on top of what they already get by being the doctrine itself. So it's going to be, I think that's how it works. It's going to be extra tanky. It's going to be really fast. So that's nice. Then in terms of tanks, we don't get that many bonuses, other bonuses. In the air, attack bombers are our only buffs, really. But that's nice because tactical bombers are good against infantry, or like, what do they call them? Soft targets. Attack bombers are good against armor. But with this buff to infantry, we can kind of use attack bombers for both. And with the allied doctrine, it's the other way around. So that's interesting. So we're going to have to rely heavily on attack bombers in the air. I think that's actually a dive bomber. There are no dive bombers in this game, but that's definitely the way they looked in World War One, World War Two. What am I saying? So yes, they get a nice buff to infantry and even an even higher buff to heavy armor. There's kind of two types of armor. In terms of naval combat, obviously the Axis have great U-boats. They have plus 15% damage to ships, which submarines are already really good at hitting ships, and they move fast. In terms of that, they don't really get any other buffs. Submarines did get nerfed a few days ago, and destroyers got further buffed. So that submarines have been hit quite hard by that. In this area, they get most of their buffs in the rocket area. They get plus 15 damage against all for the rockets, and for the rocket fighters, get plus 15 damage against planes. But the thing is with rocket fighters, their range is horrific. It's really, really small. So they are quite a niche unit in my opinion. So now we've got an idea of what we should focus on as Germany, seeing as it is the Axis doctrine. So first, we have to research. I haven't really explained what combat is, so maybe showing this first wasn't the greatest idea. But basically how combat works is it's all based on numbers. So if you look at this, every unit deals different damage, depending on whether it's attacking or defending against different types of units. The 3 ground, or what can you say, land units are unarmored, or basically infantry, light armor, and heavy armor. These are armored cars and light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, etc. Then you also have airplane, basically air units, buildings, ships, and submarines. So as you can see, infantry are a defensive unit and they're best against infantry. Whereas if we go on to, say, light tanks, they are mostly an attacking unit and they're good against both infantry and other light armor divisions, but against heavy armor they are quite weak in comparison. So that's how damage works. Different units have different hit points as well, which is interesting. So say this has, what does it say, hit points? There you go, on different terrains. So there's 23 hit points on planes, and basically all the terrains except for sea. Speaking of terrains, different units may get buffs in terrains to their strength, and they may also get the speed varies depending on the terrain they are in. So for instance, tanks are really good in plains. Not only are they really fast, but also they get plus 50% buff. But whereas in mountains, most units are quite slow and tanks are slow as well. So how this works is if 2 army groups are fighting each other, basically kind of all the numbers get added together, the HP and everything, and they just sort of duke it out. And if you manage as the attacker to destroy the other person's army, then you can take that province and take over that territory, basically. So that's how combat works. First, we'll research infantry, because that's useful. That will take 30 minutes. It's quite long. What else do we need? We're definitely going to research medium tank as soon as we can, and we have to research light tank first for that to happen. Oh, we need armored car as well. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to do all of that then. What else? I mean, motorized infantry you can do once this is done. I'm not sure we'll need militia right now. Militia is a really slow defensive unit, so you mostly use that in urban areas for defense. You can also research like anti-air and anti-tank, but I'll do that separately because you do need to research a lot of things in the early stages of the game, and they don't take that long. So once you've researched the unit, then you can start producing it. But in order to produce it, you need to have the right construction in the area. So for instance, if you build a barracks, you will be able to produce everything in this section. And if you build a tank plant, you will be able to produce everything in the tank section. Ordnance foundry for ordnance, aircraft factory for aircraft, secret lab for secrets. And naval base doesn't show up because this is Berlin and there's no sea, but there are naval bases as well. A helpful tip is to use the province list instead of having to select every province separately. When you only have 5 cities, it's not that much of a hassle. So first I'll start off by building stuff that produces. So let me just think. We're gonna need to have some tank plants, and we're gonna need to have at least 1 naval base, and that has to be Hamburg, because I don't have any other cities that have access to the sea. So that's quite an easy decision. We're gonna need barracks in quite a lot of places. That's a sure thing. So my plan is just to more or less, I'm going to skip to the plan here and then maybe decide where I'm going to build stuff based off that plan. So the plan is quite a common German playthrough. Basically, I'm going to try to mirror what happened in the actual war. So first I'm going to annex Austria. They obviously will put up a fight in this game, but in real life they didn't really. They just let the troops march in. So first I'm going to reunite Austria with Germany. Then I will take Czechoslovakia, and hopefully after that I will attack Poland. So I'm starting off with 2 AI nations with only 1 city, which will bolster my power, and then I can really go for the big prize, if you like. So considering that, I'm thinking, basically what I'm thinking here is where to build my aircraft factory, because aircraft can only launch from a province which has either an airstrip, so as you can see this province is an airstrip, or a province which has an aircraft factory. So I was thinking, I think it would be better to either build my aircraft factories over here, because then they'll have this area to attack. I can build airstrips as well if I need to send, if I need my planes to be in range of enemy territories, or I can build it here because my first target is Vienna. But now that I thought of it, I think I'll build it in this area actually. And I might build like an airstrip here or something. Or I might just not need air support for, quite frankly, for Austria. So I think I'll build it either in Cologne or Duisburg. Probably Cologne. I'll build an aircraft factory. In Duisburg, I'm going to try to focus on barracks because they're really useful. I'll definitely build a tank plant. Sorry, here. In Munich, I'll build some barracks. And here an ordnance foundry. So actually how it's worked out is that I'm building one of the basic buildings for producing units in every single province respectively. But after these are finished, I'll build barracks and some more, because barracks are really useful. Because at the start of the game, infantry is really going to be your main unit rather than tanks and armor. So that's what I'm going to focus on. But for now, I'll get one of each, just to be sure that I have quite some versatility. Also, you have secret, what are they called? Labs, but I'll build them a bit later. there's not that much I need them for right now. So I haven't talked about the economy. As you can see, basically we start off with a similar amount of every single resource, but now depending on how much we produce, it sort of tipped the balance and how much we've actually used for building stuff. And it also shows you how much you're producing. So as you can see, we are producing quite a lot of everything for the start, especially metal, which is nice. A fair amount of oil and rare materials, but a very limited amount of grain. And grain is important, or food, I think it's called. That is important because that's what most of your armies use, especially infantry use up a lot of grain and barracks. So there are basically 5 resources that you can buy on the market. I think I'll buy some grain now while it's going to be fairly cheap. Maybe like 1,000. And then the 6th resource is manpower. And you cannot buy manpower. That comes from your provinces. And the thing about non-city provinces, for starters, some of them also produce some resources, but they also produce manpower, especially those who actually don't produce any resources. So that's why you need them. When you have a massive army, you might run out of manpower. I have done that in my first game of the Soviet Union. I was building stuff constantly, and I just started running out of manpower. So these, basically, you would say vanilla provinces. I guess maybe people who don't play Magic together might not understand that concept. But basically, provinces that don't really have anything, they don't produce any resources. They do give you manpower, which is useful, and they give you the most manpower, except for cities, I think. And actually, not a lot less than cities, which is nice. So how do you boost production? That's the question. So let's go on to Berlin. In cities and rural provinces have different building sets. Obviously, you can only, well, I haven't actually said this, so it's not obvious, but you can only produce units in cities. In cities, for the province economy, you can build industry, which will boost your province economy at the first level by 10%, at level 5 by 100%. You can build recruiting stations, which increase the manpower, because people get recruited, and propaganda officers, which raise the morale. Morale is basically this thing, everyone starts at 70%, which influences production speeds, and if the morale is really low, then there is a chance that the province will revolt. When you take over a province, the morale is usually at 25%, so there is a chance that the province will revolt. I'll talk about revolts later, even though I could talk about them now. Yeah, I'll talk about them later. And unit support, you can also build a bunker and infrastructure. So I know people like building infrastructure, but the only real thing it does is speed up the unit movement in that province. In terms of rural provinces, the construction options are either, for the province economy, these are the same, and then you have local industry, which is kind of similar, but a bit better, because at level 1, it's not like 10% or whatever, it's 35, and at level 3, it's already 200, and level 2, 100% more than what the base production. And for unit support, you can build an airstrip, you can build infrastructure as well, and you can build fortifications, which is basically the same as the bunker. For rural provinces which are close to the sea, you can also build a local port. I'm not actually sure what that does. I've never built one. I'm assuming, yeah, it's just the embarkment time is decreased. So embarking is when units board onto transport ships and for them to go overseas. So if I wanted to launch an amphibious assault on Copenhagen, say I'd already taken all of this from Denmark, then I'd embark onto a transport, head over there, disembark, which takes time. That's what makes amphibious assaults quite difficult, because when you're disembarking onto enemy territories, any unit stationed there can fire at your units as well. So I would disembark, and then hopefully I would engage in battle and take the province. So that's how that works. So I really need to boost my grain production. Do I have any rural grain provinces? I mean, I could go onto the province list just to check. So I will say, show all provinces. Wow, okay, well that's the problem then. My only grain source is Cologne. which can be a bit of a problem. The nice thing is Vienna is a double grain city. I think in this game all cities are double production, but in, say, 1939, the whole world map, which is where I'm playing my series as India, while France is already attacking Luxembourg, I've just realized. You also have single production cities. Basically, every country, every playable country, I think, every playable country which has 5 or more cities starts off with 5 cities that are double production, and then the rest are only going to be single production. So then I will have to build, which is unfortunate. Okay. Well, basically, I'm going to have to build. I can't put stuff in queue, sadly. But when I can, I will build this here, which will boost production by 10%. I'm really going to have to focus on building industry in Cologne, because grain is important, and that's literally the only way I can actually get grain, sadly. In terms of other other production that I might need to boost, let me just see. Actually, goods are really, we've got quite a lot. Our second lowest is oil, so I could either build some stuff in my capital, Berlin, or build it in a rural oil province that we have. I'm kind of thinking, I think I'll build a barracks in Berlin, so for now, which is going to be after the tank plant, so for now I'll build some local industry here. And I don't mind if I maybe, what else might need boosting a bit? Rare materials, I guess, yeah. I'll also build maybe some infrastructure in my cities later on. And my third lowest is goods. I don't think I'll touch iron for now. It seems to be okay. So it seems we do have quite a lot of rural provinces surrounding Hamburg. In fact, yes, like every single one next to it. So that's really our economic heartland, if you like, in terms of producing resources. All right, how long have we got until this finishes? Not too long, about 17 minutes. Okay, I haven't actually been recording for that long, so I can speak for a bit more. Now, our target is Vienna, so what we are going to do is we are going to prepare our forces for the invasion. The good thing about these, well, fighters as well, they're better at it than bombers, but you can patrol. And sadly, we can't quite get the patrol radius inside Austria because the airstrip is too far away. But what I would have done is basically you patrol over an area and you can see what units they have in that province and other province information, like what is in the city. If they actually had anything built, it would have been a question mark because it's not inside my view range. Every unit has a view range, as you can see. So patrolling is useful. And I think you can also attack when you're patrolling at everyone inside the city. And not the city, the radius of the patrol. I never quite really understood that. I think here it might be useful to build an airstrip, actually, because our next attack is on Czechoslovakia, and that's, I'm assuming, well in range. Even though, like, you don't really... So Prague will even be in range of my fighters. And fighters have I think they're called interceptors. Oh no, they are called fighters. And fighters have a horrifically small radius compared to, say, bombers and strategic bombers, which are used for cities. They have a really long radius, yeah. So I'll build an airstrip here. Okay, so how is this assault going to work? So basically, I will just show you how this works. You would send, say, something to attack here. And then maybe this you would split the infantry off to attack here. And then you would use your tanks maybe to go further into the territory. But for now, I'm not going to do that. That was just more like showing how you would do it, really. So my armor is in this area. Just to for a comparison, how many units overall do I have? I have 18 and only 2 armored cars. Normally you don't start off with any tanks, which is a bit unfortunate. So I will definitely move this armored car from Berlin over to here for the attack. I also need to reinforce my borders, which could be very useful. I'm not sure I need this in Hanover because no one can go directly here unless they have paratroopers, but I'm assuming no one would have researched paratroopers. A, because they're probably not available for quite a while, and B, because they do take quite a while to research and produce. So that was a bit going off on a bit of a tangent, but so Hanover's, no one can get directly there. These I'm going to use for the attack. I was thinking of sending this over to solidify this territory. I'm pretty sure someone like Czechoslovakia in AI is less likely to attack me than, say, Poland if it does decide to. So I'm going to send this over here as well. And I am leaving Breslau undefended, but I'm assuming no one's going to attack though. I think I'll also move this armored car. Armored cars aren't my favorite unit, really. I'm not sure why. I think I just underestimate them for not being tanks. They're just armored cars, I guess. But really, they're still a type of tank. So they're mostly actually a defensive unit, and they are really strong against infantry, kind of fairly strong, but really still a bit weak against light armor, and really weak against heavy armor. And they're not actually that useful in attack, so I'm not sure. I just want to compare them to infantry, because infantry is also a defensive unit at the end of the day. Yes, they have similar values against infantry. And infantry, I think I might actually be a bit better against light armor, and better against heavy armor. Wow, okay. They are slower though, they're significantly slower. I guess that's the only bonus. So I'm going to keep this here, defending. Okay, yeah, I guess maybe my distrust, if you want to call it that, for armored cars is not completely outrageous. Looking at those stats. So France. Also, I'm thinking maybe I should join a coalition or create a coalition. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad idea. But maybe for now, obviously, I'll show you how to create a coalition because you might need to know that. So you put in the name of the coalition. No. Then you put in the description and you select a flag. You don't have to. They clearly haven't. It's just a green blob. And then you create the coalition. As for diplomacy, how does diplomacy work? Basically, currently I have peace with everyone. But so if I wanted to declare war on Austria, which will happen pretty soon, there it is. I go here. I can change our relation to trade embargo, rights of way, share map, whatever. So rights of way, people can walk through your territory. Oh, you can read it as well. Share map, basically that's full alliance. Well, full alliance just a bit lower than being in the same coalition because you're not still not really working together. So people can see where everyone is going, and it also gives right of way. So this is completely inside that. Trade embargo, I don't think people just can't buy from you and they can't enter your territory. So it's kind of state of high alert, if you like. And then war is just war. So when I do decide to attack Austria, I could change it to war. Or I can just ambush them, and then whenever our units do exchange fire, war will automatically be declared. If I wanted to message anyone, I would go on messages and trades. I could say, start a new conversation with whoever I wanted. Or I could equally do that here, and then we're already in a conversation. So I think I will start diplomatic relations with someone who seems to be quite powerful currently. I can't really tell. I think if we are going to continue this as a series, it would be better for me to wait for someone to take something. Currently, France looks kind of cool, so I might join their coalition because it has actually attacked someone. Oh yeah, thing about the newspaper is it gives you useful information about wars that happen, who's attacking who, and then it also gives you stats. But at the start, everyone's pretty much the same: who has the biggest army, best economy, stuff like that, which is useful. So there you can see that France attacked Luxembourg. All right, Romania's attacked Bulgaria. Also, when you're new to the game, when you join, and I think all newcomers come to this map, the first thing that happens is one of your province revolts. So you can tell that since he has recaptured this revolted province, Poland, this is his first game. Morocco, this is his first game. This is Ukraine's first game. And you can also tell by the name, even though my name is User, and I'm not exactly new necessarily. I'm level 38. So we can see by this that all these countries are new to the game. This is their first game. Sort of emphasizing that. So they might not be necessarily the best to, and this is kind of a bit, prejudice, I guess, might not be the best to ally with purely based on experience with the game, if you know what I mean. So that's your look into the diplomacy area. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, I've given you an idea of how combat works, an idea, but maybe not as much because I haven't actually attacked anyone yet. And now hopefully you know how unit production works. I'll show you. So if you go onto this and you go onto tanks, when the tank is built, and I've researched armored cars, then I just click on produce and it starts producing, and it will take 3 hours, 5 minutes. Production does take a while. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What you need to do is improve your economy, build up your cities, build up your rural provinces, and then build armies and take over stuff. Even though you don't necessarily have to, you can start taking over stuff before you've necessarily completed a total industrial revolution in your country. Because other countries, especially in this game where everything is balanced, well, the thing I love about 1939, the whole world map, is every country already has loads of stuff built in their cities. They already have stuff in their rural provinces. They already have loads of stuff researched, loads of stuff built. So, and the thing I like about that is it represents the actual power of the country. If it was 1939, it represents the borders, whereas here everyone is equal, which is great from a balancing standpoint and getting new players into the game. Because if you're new and you start off with 1939 whole world map, and you actually can't, you have to be level 17, and then you get something like Tibet because everyone's already picked, and you have 5 cities, and then you just get steamrolled by national China or something, which has 15 cities, I think, and you've got no chance because that's not necessarily no chance, but that's how the game works. It's not exactly balanced, whereas this is balanced. So again, going off on a tangent, I completely forgot what I was talking about, but it's pretty much the end anyway. Comment below if you would like this to turn into a series. I would love to play as Germany. I think it's really fun to play. And see you guys next time. Bye.